Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll speak with Congresswoman Yasamin Ansari on a number of issues, including proposals to cut Medicaid and the U.S. handling of deportations. Also tonight, local chefs team up to keep fine dining alive during summer slowdowns, and a look at some of the new art popping up around downtown Mesa. Those stories and more next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. First-year Arizona Congresswoman Yasamin Ansari recently traveled to El Salvador on behalf of the mistakenly deported Kilmar Abrego Garcia. We spoke to Congresswoman Ansari earlier today about that trip and other issues on Capitol Hill. Congresswoman Ansari, good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. A couple of things I want to talk about, but before we get to the trip to El Salvador and these sorts of things, a lot of budget talk on Capitol Hill right now, and including the GOP budget plan, $880 billion cut over the next decade. Medicaid and the ACA, a big part of the plans of the Republican Party right now. What are your thoughts from what you've heard?
Well, first of all, Ted, thank you so much for having me on. This is such an important conversation to be having right now. Since I've been in Congress, from the jump, the conversation has been around this budget because from the get-go, Republicans voted for a continuing resolution and a budget framework, which, as you stated, directs the Energy and Commerce Committee to cut $880 billion. Republicans will continue to tell you and lie that this does not mean that Medicaid is being cut and that we are fear-mongering, but every expert and the CBO and the department within Commerce, the Congressional Research Service that looks at the numbers, has made clear there is no way to make those sorts of cuts without going after Medicaid. In my district, approximately 330,000 people rely on Medicaid, so the Republican budget would be detrimental. That committee markup is happening right now. Now, what is important to watch is that several moderate Republicans have said that they will not vote to cut Medicaid, and so the battle is ongoing right now to figure out, where they will end up.
Indeed, and as you mentioned, as we speak, they're working on this thing, the draft plan, regarding these cuts. There's some talk, though, that this draft plan is nowhere near what the more conservative Republican members on Capitol Hill wanted to see. There is already moderation. There is already a compromise. Is that how you see it?
Well, I see this budget as an absolute disgrace. It not only does it direct cuts in Medicaid, I was in the Natural Resources Committee markup last week where we saw the most anti-environment legislation in decades in this country, with significant rollbacks to our climate progress, giving away a public lands tax breaks to the oil and gas industry like never before. We're looking at battles around basic programs like SNAP and food assistance and Head Start. All of these budget cuts are because Republicans want to give tax cuts to billionaires like Elon Musk and to the ultra rich in this country. And so I have been very concerned from the get-go about this budget.
There is some concern, though, as well among those who say that, yes, those concerns are there, but the American public put these people in office to do things like that. Do they have a point?
I don't think that this is what the American people voted for. They didn't vote for chaos and recklessness and irresponsibility. They didn't vote for corruption. They voted for somebody to bring change and to shake things up and to make their lives easier. But instead, they have seen reckless tariffs that are making costs go up. They are seeing corruption with a president who's about to accept a $400 million plane from a foreign government. And they are seeing a Congress that is not willing to stand up to this administration ever because they are so scared of retaliation from Donald Trump and Elon Musk that they're willing to go to extreme lengths to make sure these people get crazy tax cuts that are not deserved.
One last point here on the budget and the Medicaid aspect, especially because it impacts Arizona so much. There is thought in the draft plan to have a work requirement for poor childless adults. They got to prove that they're working 80 hours every month in order to qualify. Is that a kind of a reasonable thing that you see, or again, is that a bridge too far?
There's just a lot of fear mongering around Medicaid. There's, Republicans who will try to say that people are taking advantage of this. We know that 93% of those who are on Medicaid are already working. The only individuals who may not be part of that 93% are those within our disability community who I have engaged with in Arizona through the Arizona Disability Coalition. So once again, unfortunately, from Republicans, we see a lot of lies and a lot of misinformation that is being spread.
Your recent trip to El Salvador on behalf of Kilmer Abrego Garcia, why did you need to be there?
So, to me, it is extremely concerning, especially as someone with a family history of parents who fled an authoritarian government, that we have co-equal branches of government in the United States. That is what our democracy is all about. And the fundamental right of due process for every single person is extremely important. This case is important because the Supreme Court of this country, the highest court in the land, voted 9-0 that this administration wrongfully deported him and must facilitate his return home. We know that this administration's tactic is to flood the zone. Donald Trump always wants to change the conversation. He's deflecting from this constitutional crisis and the fact that he is defying the Supreme Court. And so myself and my colleagues who went felt extremely determined to make sure we keep up the pressure on the administration.
Somewhere within that flood, though, the Republicans are saying that they've deported an illegal immigrant gang member. They brought up domestic violence accusations. Here's a quote from the Republicans. "You're fighting on behalf of an El Salvadoran illegal immigrant and accused gangbanger and wife beater." How do you respond to that?
I am fighting on behalf of due process for everybody in this country. I'm fighting to make sure that we as Americans do not lose what makes our country unique in the entire world and what makes us actually a free and fair country. This was not just about Kilmer Abrego Garcia, although it is very important to note that our own courts prohibited his deportation from this country. So Donald Trump is breaking the law. And again, the Supreme Court says that if we no longer are a country where we expect the president to abide by a Supreme Court decision, then how can we expect to have any sort of rights or freedom moving forward?
And obviously, as we mentioned, the administration is focusing on the man and accusations against him and his status and these sorts of things, and you're focusing on due process. And some would say that is a line of delineation that marks the two parties right now. And your predecessor, Senator now, Ruben Gallego, he is basically out there making a name for himself, saying that the Democratic Party needs help, and especially when it comes to the working class and when it comes to middle class and these sorts of folks. Does he have a point?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that that's why it's so important that we see new, young, fresh voices come up in the Democratic Party and be empowered to make change. We are seeing some of the most effective communicators in our party emerge right now, in everyone from Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez to new members of my class, from Dave Min to George Whitesides to Laura Friedman. There are so many new members in my class. I'm the class president of the Freshman Democrats, so there's 34 of us coming in right now, and all, working as hard as we can to make sure we're being effective and responding to Donald Trump's administration so that we can win the next election and show that Democrats do get things done.
But getting things done is one thing, but getting that message out there is another. And regardless of the age or the people making the call for that message, I mean, how do you get those swing voters back? They left the Democrats in this last election in a big way. Now there's some talk and some polls show they're kind of coming back to a certain degree, but how do you get those voters back?
To me, I think what I've learned over the past couple of months is that the most important thing we can do is make sure that we are battling corruption at every turn. That's not just about the Trump administration or about Republicans. I think that's even within our own party. One of the issues that I have been the most vocal on is the issue, for example, of members of Congress trading stocks. I think that, I'm a proud sponsor of the legislation to ban members of Congress from trading stocks, because American people writ large rightly feel that the system is rigged against them, and the most powerful in this country are continuing to benefit and take advantage of the system. We have to show that we are the party of change. We are the party that wants to lower costs and make life easier for people and make the American dream possible. So I also think, Ted, it's really important that we are communicating in all places at all times. I think historically Democrats have maybe been a little bit too scripted, trying a little too hard to say the right thing exactly, just like in the right place. No, we have to communicate everywhere. We have to go where we are uncomfortable, and we have to actually talk to people.
Interesting. Hey, before you go, I got to ask you the question about the President Trump and his idea of changing the Persian Gulf, the name of the Persian Gulf, to the Gulf of Arabia. You have ties back to that part of the world here. What do you think?
I think it's ridiculous. I mean, Donald Trump needs to stop focusing on on changing the names of bodies of water. The Persian Gulf, again, it has been called the Persian Gulf for literally centuries, recognized as such by international bodies. I think it's really important to note the types of favors that Donald Trump is currying with foreign governments ahead of his trip to the Middle East, to Saudi Arabia, to Qatar, to other places. The most notable thing that Americans should be paying attention to is this insane corruption with the president saying that he's going to accept a $400 million luxury Boeing 747, not only to use as Air Force One while he's in office, but to use personally when he's out of office. This is crazy. If any Democrat had ever done this, everyone in this country would be losing their minds. And I will say that both Republicans and Democrats are calling this out, and rightly so, because again, it's showing that this is the most corrupt administration we have ever seen.
Wow, we have so much to talk about, and it was good to have you on when we did. Congresswoman Yasamin Ansari, thank you so much for making time. We do appreciate it. It's good to speak with you.
Thank you, Ted. Bye.
I'm Chef Mark Tarbell. Welcome to Check Please Arizona, the show where Arizona residents recommend their favorite restaurants. In this episode, we're heading to the cool pines of Flagstaff.
Is quintessential American comfort food in a jar, tucked back in this old strip mall, and we passed by it 1,000 times, but it should be on your to-do list to look for.
So, Evan, did you have any drinks?
One of my favorites in a long time.
Thursday night at 7 on Arizona PBS.
Summers in Arizona are notoriously slow for the restaurant industry, but this year, the Devour Summer Chefs Series looks to help keep fine dining alive in the summer months. And to learn more, we welcome Chef Justin Beckett of Beckett's Table and Kimber Lanning of Local First Arizona. Good to have you both here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right, Chef, let's talk. The Devour Summer Chef Series. What are we talking about here?
Well, a lot of fun. I mean, to start out, you know, the chefs got together and we just said, how do we rally the troops? How do we have some fun in the summer? How do we entice people to come in and enjoy a great meal? And more so, really just experience something that is a very unique experience that's going to happen in our restaurants and the other chefs' restaurants.
How does it work between the chefs? How many chefs are involved?
So 5 chefs.
Yes.
And each one of the chefs will host a dinner and get a buddy chef with them. So I'll be cooking with Stephen Jones in my restaurant, and then I'll be going to Vertu and cooking with Gio in his restaurant later in the season.
Interesting. And you just kind of keep moving it once a month?
Once a month, yep. We're going to do them on Mondays. And, you know, for me, the most exciting part was, like, I love playing with food in the kitchen with other chefs. So that's really the great part, and having a really intimate experience with these guests and having people show up and enjoy a great experience.
And Kimber, how did all this get started, the idea for this? Where'd it come from?
Well, about 18 years ago, there's a sort of a zine type of food article that came out that really placed Phoenix 49th on a list of culinary destinations, you know, and I just wasn't having that. And I remember at the time there were several chefs, and we were so offended by this rating that we got, that we formed the Devour Phoenix Restaurant Coalition. And from that, we started the Devour Culinary Classic, which is 18 years strong at the Desert Botanical Garden once a year. Mm-hmm. And then we partnered with chefs on other types of events. And one of them is the 7 Chefs series. The 7 chefs worked together to make a meal at the James Beard House, James Beard being one of the highest rated culinary critics, I guess, across the country. And that grew into what we're doing now, is creating unique experiences with chefs. I would just say the culinary scene in Arizona is remarkable. And while we're focused on Phoenix, there's wonderful things happening all across the state.
Yeah, and it seems like it's been that way for a while. I mean, it just seemed as though people discovered
Yes.
Phoenix and Arizona a few years ago, a number of years ago. But it's like, we've always been here. We've always had pretty good stuff.
Remarkable, actually. We've had a long history of fantastic chefs that have won national and international awards. And currently we have just these incredible 5 chefs. They have such a camaraderie. And I know that anybody coming out to any one of these dinners is going to have an amazing experience.
Jeff, talk about the summer and what the summer means to the restaurant industry. I know what it means to other industries. I know what it means to traffic. I know what it means to my health. I mean, summer is different in Arizona. How different for restaurants?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think it's hotter. People generally eat less when it's hot. They want to eat lighter. But I think the biggest difference for us is that we just have less volume. And so we have to figure out different great ways of exciting people and getting them into the restaurants, hence a series or an event like this. And then, we just have to treat days a little bit different. You got to think about, do I light the fire as early? Do I create that much heat in the restaurant? You think about all these different kind of mechanical things, but then you also think about what the people really want. So we change our menus to be more, light food, or have, items that have more water content so that they refresh you.
Interesting.
And so just generally thinking about staying cool.
I never really thought, but you have to be careful though, because you want to make sure people know that you are known for X, and you don't want to lose X when you're busy serving Y.
Correct. Yes, and we have a joke that we sell more hot soup in the summer than we do in the winter, which is funny to say. But we obviously want to give people what we do best and what we're known for. But we also want to really keep in mind that we're trying to entice people to come in at a slower time of the year.
And when we talk about the slowdown in the summer for a lot of businesses around the valley and in certain parts of the state, how important to the Arizona economy?
Last year, 2024, they estimated $55 billion impact the restaurant industry has on the state's economy. And I'm really particularly proud of when we started Local First Arizona in 2003, there were 2 chain restaurants for every 1 locally owned restaurant, and today the opposite is true. There are now 2 locally owned restaurants for every single chain that's here, and I think that really is reflecting the growth in the state of Arizona and the taste of so many people who've moved here that want to have a unique dining experience.
Are you seeing more collaboration between restaurants, restaurant owners?
Absolutely. I wish we would have more collaboration around sourcing local food. We're advocating for that, and we do have several chefs who are working with certain farms that are here regionally. And also, during this time where we're talking about tariffs, I think it's really important that restaurants work together to source things like paper products and to-go materials that we may see some increase in pricing.
On the Summer Chef Series, is there going to be a focus on local ingredients?
Always. I mean, that's always our first question is, hey, who's growing this? Do you have a purveyor that's doing something awesome with this? And I already sent Stephen Jones a text, and I was like, hey, what do we want to do? How do we want to theme this, So when we think about dinners, we think about creating experiences for people that they can't get on an everyday basis. And so for me, that's, whatever it is, leveling it up, calling the local farmers, calling our local purveyors, and just saying, what do you have that's special? What are you not putting on a list somewhere? What can we grab and really feature and show off?
And I know Kimber referenced this, but I got to ask you, tariffs, threat of tariffs, concerns about they come, they go, you never know what's going to happen. How's it impacting you?
I mean, we're definitely seeing increasing in some pricing, and I think the thing that I go to sleep at night kind of thinking is like, I would like some stability with it. I would like to know kind of the path forward. But I think the main thing is we want to always treat the guests with respect and understand that the cash flow going out for expenses has to be made up somewhere, but we also want to be very cautious with that.
Yeah. Real quickly, Kimber, where do people go to find more information about this summer series?
DevourPhoenix.com. You can purchase a ticket. Again, one ticket is one purchase price, and you get all 5 dinners. However, you can go in with your friends. If you're an employer, you can give a ticket as an award for a great employee. So it doesn't have to be you yourself at all 5 dinners, but you do have to buy 5, one for each dinner.
And one for each month from May to September,
That's
right? All right, good to have you both here. Thanks for
so
joining
much.
us.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, President Trump kicks off a 4-day trip to the Middle East. That's at 6 on Arizona PBS.
The city of Mesa is expanding its art footprint in the downtown area with new installations at City Hall, the Mesa Arts Center, and the city's Idea Museum. Nick Willis is the chair of Mesa's Museum and Cultural Advisory Board. He's here to tell us more. Welcome to Arizona Horizon. Good to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
You bet. So new public art in Mesa. What was the decision behind pushing for more public art?
Sure. So art has always been a key part of what makes Mesa unique. 20 years ago when we built the Mesa Arts Center, that started the revitalization of the downtown area in Mesa. And that has only pushed forward since then. For the 10th year anniversary, they built a giant mural called El Mac. And then for the 20th anniversary, they pushed for the Shepard Ferry mural.
Okay, and we're going to get to some of these installations here in a second, but who decides what goes where?
Sure. So originally, there was a public art program that the city had, but since then, since the Great Recession, it hasn't been funded. And so as a board, we decided to meet with the city manager and say, let's consider more public art here in the city. The manager at the time, Chris Brady, was very receptive to that. And he said, yeah, let's work together. Let's get some more art here, especially with the new city council chambers. He said, we need to make this beautiful and really receptive to the population.
Let's go ahead and take a look here at one of them at City Hall. This one's called Strata, one of two, I guess, two new murals at City Hall. Is that Strata right there?
Yeah, this is Strata. So this is right in front of City Hall. It's between City Hall and the Mesa Arts Center. As you can see, Strata, Strata referring to the geological lines like in a canyon. You can see it circles through almost like a spiral. Underneath, you can see these panels which have real-time analysis of air quality, winds, and things going on around the city.
Those are LEDs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Okay, and that's the artist is Adrian Yu?
Yeah.
Is that a local artist?
He worked in collaboration with ASU, yeah.
Okay, all right. We have another one called Convergence, and this one is located inside City Hall, and that's made of, it says carbon fiber, composite, and steel. That's impressive. Look at that thing.
Yeah, so you can imagine, this is about 2.5, 3 stories tall, and you can see this right on the corner of Center and Main. So this greets you as you're entering City Hall. These two different parts are reaching out to each other, kind of symbolizing public and private meeting together in City Hall.
Wow, and the artist there is Will Cliff?
Correct.
Again, what do we know about Will Cliff?
Will Cliff is very experienced in these materials, and so we had a panel and we went through and interviewed, and he was the one who would provide this best piece for us.
Okay, let's keep it moving here. At the Idea Museum, there's something called pinwheels, and I guess those are pinwheels, aren't they?
Yeah, it's accurate. The Idea Museum, I would say, is the premier children's museum here in Arizona. They're all about creativity and engagement for both the children and the parents together. And so these pinwheels immediately engage you as you start to walk up together.
And when they engage you, in other words, you can spin the pinwheel.
Yeah, if you see at the bottom, there's a little wheel, and so when the children come up, they can start to spin it.
Oh, is that how they do that?
Yeah.
And it's little hands can manage that? I mean, little hands, little arms?
See it firsthand, yeah, they can.
Yeah, they can. All right, the big old chair right there as well?
Yeah, that's the pink couch. It's very famous. It kind of moves around in downtown Mesa for a while, but now it's permanently there.
And that lights up at night?
Yes.
So, and the Idea Museum is located where?
It's also in downtown Mesa, in the heart, around McDonald and Main.
Okay, all right. I think I know where it is, but I wasn't quite sure. All right, we have another one on the Idea Museum. This is called Light and Color, and that is gorgeous.
So the Idea Museum has humble beginnings. This used to actually be a Bash's'. So if you can imagine before, the Bash's' sign would have been at the top.
Yes.
But now it's been transformed, and they put this beautiful mural leading up to the Idea Museum's new logo.
That is fantastic. This is called Light and Color. And I mean, for something like this, what is the theme here? What's the point? What are they trying to get across besides being beautiful?
Well, the point is, going to a new place can be scary for children. It can be disengaging to go up to a museum if it's too stark, if it's just the brick. And so this immediately captures the eye. Not only are people more attracted to this, but they want to go in and find out what it's about.
And the artist is Killen Maney.
Yes.
Yeah, great. That must have been a lot of work to get that done, huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Our last one is kind of by a famous person, Shepard Ferry. This is the Mesa Arts Center. And talk to us about what this is and who Shepard Ferry is.
Sure. So first, Shepard Ferry is probably the most renowned street artist of our time. He's done murals nationally, internationally, and this was his first mural in Arizona. He did an exhibition at the Mesa Arts Center, and he was so struck by our climate action plan that he agreed to do this mural with us in collaboration. And you can see it's about a conversation between humans and our climate. and also there's some justice elements in there as well that he's known for.
Now, wasn't he the one that did the Obama Hope poster?
Correct.
That was him, wasn't it?
Yeah, he also owns the Obey brand.
Wow. Okay, and so and this again is, again, for those who public art, I don't know, they need public art. Why is this important?
Sure. So I was born and raised in Mesa. Growing up, you kind of just want to leave your hometown, but as I grew up, things like public art engaged me, gave me a sense of place within the city, and also made me really proud of where I live. And so it does that for the individual, but then also for communities, something like this, we can come together and we can have a conversation about climate action.
Yes.
And this inspires us to have these brave conversations, not just in one culture, but cross-culturally too. And then finally, things like this bring economic activity to crucial areas like downtown Mesa. When you're here checking out Shepard Fairey's museum, you're also going to see that the Nile has a new marquee, that there's a new special at Tacos Chihuas, that there's a new great pizza at Goat and Ram, and there's all these other things that benefit. And the visitor economy thrives when we have solid public art.
Things are happening down there in downtown Mesa, aren't they?
They really are. Ever since the light rail finished, there's been a big push for more development in that area.
All right, Nick Willis, Mesa Museum and Cultural Advisory Board, with lots of murals and lots of good stuff in Mesa. Good to have you here.
Yeah, come visit.
Okay, sounds good. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.